Welcome to the Light Cellar Podcast, brought to you by Light Cellar, a place where you can learn to find and craft your own food and medicine. In this interview series, you will meet a range of characters in the health and wellness space that are bringing light to your everyday. You'll hear from a number of different experts on a wide variety of topics. We have several different series within the podcast, including our Wild Wisdom and Storytelling with Blaine Andrusic, the Rays of Light, inspiring wellness in the community, plus solo casts, Q&As, and other topics for you to enjoy. You can find this as a video version, as well as the audio on any of your favorite platforms. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share this with somebody you know who will benefit. You can also shop online at lightcellar.ca. All right, hello, welcome back. Another episode of Herbal Highlights with Angela Bewick.
And Malcolm Saunders.
Yeah, here we are. Cool. Well, the purpose of this series that we have going on is what are the highlights in our week related to herbs? So
there's a lot.
There's lots, you know. You're doing production, making all kinds of good herbal goodness.
I got pine on the mind today.
Pine on the mind.
Because I'm probably there's probably pollen on my face.
Yeah, well, you wear it well.
Thank you. It's a glow. That's the glow I have, is the pine pollen glow.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I want to start with pine. So
let's talk about pine.
Brought that up.
Hey, I had no idea. This just happened to be.
Two things. So this last week, we finally got the pine syrup all jarred up. That's been, we had it on special. If you're actually part of the newsletter, then you kind of get in the know about some of these weekly highlights and features. Totally random. We'll just kind of pick things, but we featured the pine syrup, which is awesome. It's a good, actually, respiratory tonic. And that was a little bit of the angle that we took in kind of sharing about the pine syrup. Why would you want to take it? But there's so many other benefits to pine.
There are. And I would love to know from you, because we had a customer come in and she asked the difference between, because we have white pine needle tincture, we have pine, what's this one?
That's
the alpine pollen.
Yeah.
She asked, what's the difference between the pine needle and the pine pollen products?
Oh, amazing. Cool. Well, how about, let's even back up even further. What's the difference between the pines, in that sense?
So many pines.
Yeah, we got to break down some myths here as well.
Okay,
right?
Let's break down some pine. There's got to be alliteration.
Yeah, it's true.
Anyways,
yeah,
related to pine. Malcolm will come up with
potential problems with pine.
What are the myths?
Yeah, preconceived problems with pine.
Pine prejudices.
Yeah, pine prejudice. Yeah. So people are like, ponderosa pine, no. But there's misinformation around, certain pines are toxic. Not true. Yeah. So
it's about the dose, right? Isn't it the dose makes the poison?
No.
Okay.
I mean,
Tell
yes,
me more.
and... It's an improv line. Yes.
Thank you. And?
Yeah. Okay. So all pines are edible and medicinal.
Yeah.
If it's truly a pine. So if you go into these articles that say beware of the toxic pines. So typically they'll list 3 species. They'll list Norfolk pine.
Yeah.
The house plant. That's not actually a pine.
No. Yes, I do know it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
And?
I've got one in my house. I love it.
Yeah.
I've actually, when I was in Ecuador last, in Mindo, there was literally in the town square a Norfolk pine, like as big as like so huge.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So
but it's not a true pine.
It's not a true pine.
Okay.
Yeah. Therefore, scratch that one off.
Okay.
Second one, yew tree, Y-E-W.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Not a pine.
And also has some amazing medicinal properties.
Yeah, and that's one of those ones, again. Like poison, medicine, it's all in the dose. And then the third one, they'll typically say, ponderosa pine is toxic. You got to stay away from that one. And you dig a little bit deeper. Okay, there's reference to this one, study, observation, where a whole bunch of cattle ate loads of ponderosa pine needles and aborted their babies.
Yes.
Yeah, well, we know that pine is an abortant, it's been traditionally used that way, and you have to consume a lot.
A lot.
And I'm really a big believer in the intelligence of animals. I really question human intelligence sometimes. But I also celebrate human intelligence.
Yes.
We are a pretty smart species.
Sometimes.
But we're not the only, species with intelligence.
Yeah.
So
There's an intuition.
There was
possibly.
something going on with those cattle. They knew,
Yeah.
right? Like, you know, it wasn't like, oh, I'm eating grass 1 minute and then, whoop, I'm now eating pine needles and oh, there goes my calf.
Yeah.
There must have been, I don't know what the circumstances were that drove them to do that. They just knew.
There's some seasonal situation where who knows, lack of food, who knows.
Who knows? So that is, you know, the one
All
contraindication.
This is all speculation.
But what's not speculation is, you know, pine is an abortive.
Yep.
Right. So you can consume large amounts, and that's the one contraindication. If you're pregnant or wanting to conceive, you know, don't consume pine.
Yes. And we do have,
Yeah, but otherwise, there's over, I think it's 119 different varieties of pine. I mean, they grow all around the world.
Yeah.
And all are edible, all are medicinal.
Yep.
Now, certain varieties have come in more in favor, like white pine has been kind of, you know, glorified, and it's a beautiful, beautiful pine. It's actually one of my favorites.
We have a gorgeous tincture that's just like, oh, it's nice.
And just the
White
tree,
pine.
there's just something about it. They got
Yeah.
those long, soft, like wispy needles.
Yeah.
Every pine has its own characteristic.
Yep.
So we primarily work with, I can't remember the Latin name for white pine. Anyways, white pine, and then our kind
Pinus blancus.
Pinus blancus. I'm trying to blancus on that one. But Pinus contorta is our local one.
Yep.
Which is interesting because contorta, right? You figure like, oh, contorta twisted.
Yes.
Yet the common name is lodgepole pine, and lodgepole because it's tall and it's straight.
Leader.
And where the actual contorta comes from is if you look at the cones of lodgepole pine, it is like they kind of twist and contort.
Yeah.
Whereas white pine, they get like massive like pine cones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is very cool.
I love
And
the
our
pines.
products, do we have mostly Alberta local?
Yes,
Products there?
100%. So the white pine, I will sometimes source from a friend in Ontario.
Okay.
But more often than not, it's me going to BC and wild harvesting.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah, kind of like in around Revelstoke type of area. You
Okay.
can find a lot of white pine growing there.
Yep.
And otherwise, it is the lodgepole pine,
Okay.
which is like right in our backyard. They're both good. They're both medicinal. Both are edible. They've got their own kind of characteristics, but they are amazing.
The pollen that I was just working with, which one is that?
So the pine pollen. So now that we've clarified about the pines, let's get into the difference versus needles versus pollen.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. So pine.
Bring us back around there.
Pine needle is a great, and you know, there's lots of crossover between all different aspects of the pine. You know, like the resin, for instance, the saps. Like there's similar compounds. You can find that as well as in the needles. So that is a really good respiratory tonic. It's so, you know, opening up, clearing the airways, antiviral.
Lots of vitamin C. So
Tons of vitamin C. Yeah, and I would say that is distinct to the needles. And in fact, so this pine syrup is pine needles, but also pine tips. Like in the spring, we all know about spruce tips.
Yep.
This was like, Denis and I call them little candelabras. Because
Yes.
they just kind of like, right at that
straight
time
up.
of year, sticking straight out, and they're just easy to kind of break off. And they're just that young growing tip of the pine.
Yep.
Amazing.
Yes.
So it's that. So all the kind of needle action in
So
there.
the syrup is tincture.
Well,
It's obviously honey. The pine needles in honey, but you've used a little bit of pine tincture in here as well.
So it's pine. Did I put resin in this one? I don't think
so.
resin's in this one. But you're going to get those resinous compounds from the needles anyways.
Yeah.
So it's pine needles, both kind of mature and young tips, done as tea, tincture, hydrosol, and honey.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's extracted 4 different ways, combined all together. Super tasty, very delicious.
It is very tasty.
Yeah, why don't you have a little shot there? And I add in the pine pollen tincture, which we'll get to in a
this
sec.
guy.
Into that as well.
Okay.
Yeah, and another thing, apparently it helps with like blood clotting as well.
Okay.
Pine is good for
Little
that.
bit of thinning or helps with the
Thinning.
actual clotting?
A bit of both in that sense. Yeah. Delicious. Yeah. That's some fine pine, hey?
That is fine. Fine. Well, that's really good.
Oh, don't mind if I do.
I'm not just exaggerating. I'm all about the mocktails, especially after our class with Yarrow on last Thursday.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
Now I just want to get syrups galore.
Yeah, totally.
And mix them up. I mixed the pine. I did the spruce with the rose syrup because we have a nice rose syrup.
Yeah.
Pine would taste so beautiful with so many things. But even just putting it into sparkling water would just be a very refreshing, delicious
Yeah, for
drink.
sure.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, well, so kind of moving on, I think we covered a decent amount of kind of the immune, respiratory, antiviral benefits of pine. Now, what is so different? Pine, I mean, if there were a tree that grew around here, you hear all these cultures, oh, the tree of life, the coconut, this, I would call the pine the tree of life.
I think that's why I love the pine so much, is because it's
Yeah.
local to us. We know that when we have local food, we need to have the food of the area around us, which is why you forage so much when we do all this.
Yeah.
So,
love it. So then, pine pollen, and the pine gives us so much. Like we can eat the inner bark. We can use the wood for, homes and X number of things. The needles, the resin.
just the aromatics when you walk through the forest.
Oh, totally.
That's a big immune support.
Yeah, pine nuts.
Yes.
Right, in terms of the food, the nourishment. But something really, really special is the pine pollen.
Tell me about it. I am hyped up today.
Yeah, it's like the no, I won't go there. I won't say that. I'll get myself in trouble here.
It's very good for hormone and endocrine health.
Total aphrodisiac, as Denise says. It will help you grow woody.
And not just for men, by the way.
Yeah, no, totally.
Because females also need androgens. There's a lot of androgen properties to this.
Yeah, so if anybody's like feeling, maybe they just don't quite have the drive, and that could just be day to day to
Any drive,
do the laundry or,
Yep. Work. Any sort of career stuff, getting a project finished, getting that we could even use it cyclically, especially women, because we have a monthly cycle. Males have a 24-hour cycle. And so we could both kind of strategize in how we use it throughout the month to support that natural time of the month when it's like, okay, for women, this is my power performance time of the month. Pollen would be awesome.
I think it's a great way to go. Last year, I almost did an entire year straight of pine pollen.
What do you mean, like nothing else?
Well, no, meaning like straight, like every day. You're talking about being nice and cyclical, working with the seasons.
Well, you can, because you're a man, so you 24-hour cycle.
Yeah, so I had this one example. So this was last year, not the one that just passed, but the previous year. It was like August. You know how August is? Like you can just sense that shift of the seasons. And
it's kind of like November. November's been like that too. Anyways.
Yeah. So I was hanging out with Julie Walker. We were finished a plant walk, and she was just like, it's like, how's life? We're just kind of catching up. She's like, just really feeling the shift, just like kind of like paring down, getting ready for autumn. I'm like, I'm not, it's like I've got the energy of spring, because I was like pine pollen every day,
pollen it up.
Yeah, so that's kind of how I describe it. Like it's the energy of spring, it's the energy of drive, it's the energy of get things done, it's the energy of.
But you also reminded me that this is a great. Pollens in general are a great thing to take in the spring. Yeah. Actually, January, February.
Right.
Prepping. To prep yourself if you're prone to seasonal allergies, especially stimulated by pollen.
Apparently, Manitoba maple is the most allergy-inducing pollen that we have around here.
Really? Yeah. That's not the fluffy ones?
No,
that's
it's not
more
actually.
Poplar-y.
Yeah, they put out these little catkins flowers that release pollen. Yeah, you wouldn't think. You would think you would blame it on it's the cottonwood,
Yeah, but it's that. But any pollens can help prepare your body. It's like a little bit of a homeopathic kind of.
Yeah, totally.
But
and that's why people like bee pollen, because the bees will go and gather all that pollen. So you kind of get a little bit of everything combined into those pollen granules.
But it's hard to get local pollens because we have, lotus pollen and often our bee pollens are from elsewhere. Yeah. But this is something that would be local to us.
And so we know pollens being the sexual reproductive, I don't want to call it an organ, but component of plant life.
Constituent.
Yeah. They are some of the most nutritious, nutrient-dense foods on the planet that come with all those kind of hormone compounds, the androgens, that type of thing. And so, yeah, very nutritive and very kind of hormone balancing. So highest amount of bioavailable testosterone of anything in the plant kingdom. And it's one of those things, I'm chatting with a guy earlier, you know, like, and he's really new to all this. And, you know, I was talking about reishi, this and that. And he's like, well, do you feel it? You know, and I'm like, you'll feel pine pollen.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially if you're doing it every day.
Yeah.
Just ask Malcolm.
Well, I'm more cyclical with it now.
Are you?
There was like a year where I just like...
Went hard.
Full on.
Is that the year you got your wife pregnant again? Just curious.
No.
No. Before that.
Yeah.
Okay.
But could have, I suppose. Yeah.
Do you have anything else about pine that you want to mention? Syrups are in the store. Pine pollen's in the store.
And so you were preparing more pine pollen because everything that we do, like I personally hand harvested, which is a labor of love.
It is a labor of love.
Nothing better than just going out to the forest. And then pine pollen season, you got to be on it.
Yeah.
You know, it's like a couple week window. We'll try and extend it by go further out, further up, you know, different elevations, that kind of thing. Yeah. But
and you and Denis get a lot of pine pollen too when you go. They're very efficient.
Yeah. So it's one of those things like, you know, we get as much as we can and that's it.
Yeah.
So I was really happy with how much I got this year. That being said, what we did is we did an initial batch. We held some back, and that's what you're doing now.
Yes.
Like the second last part of it. So
and it's a big one.
Yeah, so that'll end up on the shelf soon. We've been out of the 120 mils. We're just on our last couple of 60s, so we'll have a nice restock coming.
Yeah.
And that'll be it until the autumn. But I did actually put pine pollen in here as well.
Oh, good.
Now it's not as large and therapeutic a dose as the straight pine pollen.
But you could combine them as well.
Yeah.
If you wanted to.
But there's enough in there.
Yeah.
But yeah, totally. I mean, those two together would be a real boost.
The syrups are just so lovely.
They are.
Especially this time of year.
Yeah. Okay, so now next syrup. Do you mind, there's a little piece of paper in the printer thing. I just grabbed that.
You want me to grab it?
Yeah.
Was that what you were printing?
That's what I was printing.
It just came now?
I forgot to grab it before we went on air, as it were. Now, these are 2 testimonials that came from the Poplar Bud Syrup. Poplar Bud Syrup. So the Cottonwoods, we did the chat with Blaine yesterday. The entire hour was just on poplar and aspen.
Oh,
so it was like a nice deep dive.
Oh, nice.
So, you know, that's already live if anyone wants to go catch that conversation, or it will be, I think, today.
Yes.
It's already posted, but just got to get... anyways, Poplar Bud Syrup. This is one really good for the throat.
Really good for the throat.
Yeah, infections, that kind of thing. If you know bee propolis, this is actually what, just kind of like we're talking about pollens, you know, where the bees go and gather the pollens and make bee pollen. The bees will go and gather the resins of trees to make propolis. So this is kind of like going to the source.
Yeah, this is like our Alberta propolis that we have here.
So what's amazing is, we've... You know, we know about this in terms of for the throat, you know, like it coats the throat. It's called the, defense of the city. The bees use it for the first line of defense of the immune system of the hive. Humans figured out, it works for us too, you know. Yeah. And because it's resinous, it kind of coats the throat to prevent that. So first sign of sore throat, even when you have a sore throat, it's actually got like pain relieving properties.
Yeah, some analgesic properties.
Analgesics, yeah. And then also, it even really works... Latifa, right?
Yes.
Yeah. What was it? It was a permaculture event. She was talking. She had a booth. This like interacting like entire day. And she's like, she came to the booth. She's like, Poplar Bud Syrup. Didn't have a sore throat, but she's like, my voice is like especially a little bit tired. So she just like came, give that a little shot, like instant, soothing and rejuvenation to her throat.
Yeah, and most things that are really soothing to the throat are also soothing to the whole upper respiratory tract.
Yeah.
So when you have that like kind of irritation, anything up like in the kind of lower trachea, where the trachea kind of meets the throat.
Right.
This would be lovely for that. Any respiratory stuff, actually. Yeah. It's just really soothing.
And so here's the interesting thing. So I got this 2 testimonials, one just a couple days ago, another one within the last month. both about poplar bud syrup, nothing to do with respiratory or exactly what you said, right?
Yeah.
Okay, title, this last one that just came in, God Sent.
Oh, God did send us this.
So this is Kelly M. She shared in her testimonial. It is amazing. It helps with my sciatica a lot, making walking and standing a lot easier.
That's wonderful, and it makes sense because the other product that we make with the buds is Balm of Gilead.
Yeah.
And so that one is very, very commonly used for
pain,
any sort of joint pain,
inflammation. Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally.
So those anti-inflammatory properties, that's great.
Yeah. All right. Next testimonial, poplar bud syrup. This product is amazing because it really works. I'm a very skeptical person, but since I've been using this syrup, the pain and swelling in my knees are both gone! Exclamation mark, exclamation mark. That was Garnetta.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I'm going to take more.
Yeah. So, love that.
So internal use, of course, supports everything, right?
Yeah. No, absolutely.
That's nice.
Isn't it good?
You know
and
what
then being a syrup, this was extracted 2 ways, in alcohol as a tincture and then in honey as a herbal honey combined together. Creates a nice
similar
syrup.
to the pine syrup.
Yeah.
Mix these two together in my mouth and see what happens.
Yeah. The one thing I haven't done yet is a poplar bud hydrosol. It might be really cool. I just haven't done it yet. I'm kind of nervous because, I can imagine all the resin and like just the mess it's going to make. I'm going to have to clean up the still. It might take me a few hours. So
those go nicely together.
I bet. So that is some amazing tree medicine right there.
Oh, man.
Yeah. That's internal force
rejuvenated. My insides feel Shinriko'd right up.
Yeah.
Shinroku'd. Sorry, my Japanese is very bad.
Cool. All right.
Yeah.
Well, that's all I got. I think those are some pretty good herbal highlights for the week.
I feel rejuvenated. I feel ready to rock.
Yeah. Nice.
Get your pine on. Get your poplar bud on.
Yeah.
Come on down to the light cellar. We've got it all.
Cool.
Yep.
All
Thanks,
right.
Malcolm.
Thanks for tuning in. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you've enjoyed today's episode, be sure to give us a like, share this with someone you know who would benefit, and subscribe so you're up to date with all the new episodes coming out. You can shop online at lightcellar.ca as well as visit us in the heart of Bowness in Calgary, Alberta.